Hello and welcome to Scott Rock.
Where your hosts from Climb Scotland, Robert Mackenzie,
and me, Callum McBain, catch up with climbers every 2 weeks who have different epic tales to tell us.
We hope you enjoy the show.
And remember, when you're out climbing, be safe and do your buddy checks.
At Fat Old Climber. Well, you can't get more honest about yourself than that. No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about today's guest on the show, the absolute gentleman that is Gordon Robb. You may not recognise Gordon's name, but you may recognise his Instagram handle at Fat Old Climber from being the big guy that is just on a mission. Gordon hasn't been climbing for all that long, really, around 5 years or so. But his passion for climbing and the clarity that he has on what it gives him is really refreshing. Again, big thank you to GCC for letting us come in before they opened. But yeah, here we go. We're going to get deep into the meaning of climbing with the big teddy bear that is Gordon Robb. Yeah, like I said, I didn't do any research. All I've seen is your Instagram and that UKC article.
Yeah, that was.
And like I saw the Instagram, followed the Instagram, thought there's some really good stuff on there. And I saw the article, I was like, oh, that's that guy. Oh, cool.
All right.
And I started reading the article and was like, no, I can't read this. I need to actually speak to this guy.
Oh, cool.
Like, I thought it's like with, you know, just the Instagram handle, the stuff you're putting out there,
yeah.
And what I got from the first couple of paragraphs from that article is like, I really appreciated the kind of refreshing, like self-deprecating, humorous, like realistic honesty that you're putting out there. You know, I really appreciate that, and especially in the social media world, that's kind of hard to come by sometimes.
Yeah, and I hadn't actually. I mean, that whole anti-social media kind of vibe wasn't even remotely on my radar until the UKC interview. Because how that happened is Natalie just sent me loads of questions.
Yeah.
Because we were more in lockdown then, and she just sent me loads of questions, and I just answered them. And I thought, I'll just answer them, and I'm pretty verbose when I'm typing, so I thought, there's no way they'll use it all.
Yeah.
I said, just feel free to cut it all. And it wasn't until she said the question about this, the everyone's Instagram being their, what's the phrase they use, their highlight
reel, yeah.
That I realised it had never been my intention. But it is the case, you know. I mean, I follow loads of climbers on Instagram, but it just began to get like a sea of perfect climbing and perfect people, and I began to lose track of who it was I was looking at. But as I say, I didn't think I know what I'll do. I'll show people what real climbing is. It was never the drive, if that makes sense. And the funniest thing, the name for me was the funniest thing, because I mean I'm old and I'm fat, and you know, and it's like I have intentions to not be one of them. Yeah, you know, I'm not getting any younger. But it was through Meetup. That's how I got into bouldering, not climbing, but bouldering. And every Wednesday at TCA there was a very, very popular, I mean, like sometimes there was 30 of us in this meetup, and there was a girl that joined us from Germany, and I can't even remember her name, but she joined us from Germany once, and we were sitting having a coffee after the climb, and she just said to me in her kind of broken English, I wish you could meet my dad. And I said, what is that? Said, and I was thinking, that's sound. I'm going to get bigged up here. And she said, yeah, because he's old and fat as well. And I thought, I was kind of taken aback by it. And then she added, and would never think he could do this kind of thing. And I thought, the old and fat thing was almost definitely just blunt German humour, but also a kind of lost in translation thing. And I thought, that's hilarious. And it kind of, I had recently, like that week maybe, discovered, I always get them confused, Eat, Sleep, Climb, Repeat.
Yeah.
I'd only recently discovered him and thought, oh, this is something you don't see in it. So I'd been following him, and I suddenly thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And then I'm from Springburn originally, so my sense of humour is fairly self-deprecating. I mean, I'm happy to...
It's part of the Glasgow humour, isn't it?
I'm happy to aim my sense of humour at other people, but... so I thought, I know what, I'll just call myself the old fat climber.
Yeah.
So I thought, that's fine, I was on Instagram, so I set up a new ID and typed in old fat climber, and it was taken. There really is someone who did, so that's why I changed it to fat old climber.
Brilliant.
And as I say, I had no plan, no intention, other than I have historically every now and then videoed climbing.
Yeah.
The main reason being I'm a big reader of, not a massive researcher, but I like to read stuff. And I've read often a technique for improvement is to video yourself.
Yeah.
I used to do it when I used to play golf, and I did the same with golf. So I have been in the habit of recording videos of me climbing. So I think when I set up the thing, I just posted loads of videos from the past.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just... I can't imagine it resonates with a lot of people that contact, because a lot of people that contact me are young, fit, climb a lot, good climbers. So it's clearly not resonating with them. But as I say, it suddenly became for me, because people started saying it.
Yeah.
It suddenly became that, if I can get some old fat guy to think maybe I should try that.
I could try that.
I could try that. Because I'm not that fit. I mean, I was running for a while.
Yeah.
And I have to be really careful when I come down off the wall and things like that, despite Sundays flying about the place.
I think I actually saw that post.
But I don't know, I think there's loads of my friends, loads of people I work with, I talk about climbing, younger folk than me, fitter folk than me, would never even have thought about it.
Yeah.
And I still think there's, maybe not in your age group, but in my age group, there's still loads of people that don't know there is such a thing.
Oh no, you'd be amazed at how many people are like, you actually do that? That's a sport, that's a hobby you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was hoping by now it would be more, with it being in the Olympics, it would be more out there. But,
I think like the publicity around it being in the Olympics, there hasn't been that much publicity within the climbing world. It's like, yes, this is awesome, but outside the climbing world, it's not been there. And with the Olympics getting postponed this year, the rest of the world hasn't seen it. So we've been put back a year, I think.
Definitely, but I remember the last Olympics. I don't really watch. I'm not that into sport, but I remember last year after the Olympics, there was a massive increase in hockey play, and it was because Britain did so well in the hockey. And and I always remember I used to ride horses, and I always remember when the equestrian sports were added, and again it was the same. People called dressage horse dancing. But, it's just people that have people that are obsessed with the Olympics kind of watch everything. Yeah. And I can't remember what they call the sport that's new. Is it? They call it something. Is it the exhibition sport or something? There's always a sport that's added.
Sports.
It's not exhibition, but it's something that says this is new. Yeah. So loads of people watch it, and the thing I find about climbing is, with the possible exception of speed climbing, which I have my views on, when you start watching it, you do get hooked. Yeah. And I know loads of people who don't climb, who I'll say, "Oh, you should watch this," and the excitement of watching a tight world championship bouldering competition is just, you don't have to be a climber
to appreciate that.
It.
Yeah. I think it's definitely changed in the last 5 or 10 years. I remember, because I used to compete way back in the day. And I remember watching it back then was just the most dull thing ever, especially at the league competitions. It took so long. The routes were, the routes were awesome. The quality of the routes, I think was the same, but they were all tiny little crimps and everything. You couldn't get a proper appreciation for what was going on up there. Whereas now, with big colourful volumes, big dynamic moves,
and I guess filming technology as well.
Yeah, so it's just made it that little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
For I think everybody. I think even climbers are appreciating the filming a little bit more and watching online. So yeah, I think come next year, once the Olympics actually happens, fingers crossed, and climbing actually gets its moment in the mainstream media.
I think it will make a huge difference because I think one of the problems we have, not so much in Scotland but certainly in Glasgow, is there's not enough competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you have here and you have TCA, and it's pretty much. I'm not saying that they do this, but they can't, because they have the monopoly. If you find it's busy in one place, you don't have the choice.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that will happen is it will get more mainstream and more entrepreneurial idiots will think, you know what we should do? We should open a climbing gym. Yeah. And I think I'll probably piss off a lot of people by saying this. I think one of the things that the climbing world suffers from is the gyms are typically passion projects.
Yeah.
They're owned and run by climbers.
By climbers, for climbers.
For climbers, and the thing is, I find things like that, this is a total aside.
That is quite alright.
Vegan restaurants are the same.
Okay.
I've been to one or two, I'm not vegan, but I know vegans, and vegan restaurants typically are owned and run by vegans.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you've got this person who, it doesn't matter what they were doing professionally, but they think, oh, you know what would be good? And it's not like they have no business sense or no commercial sense, but it's frequently you think, well, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
And I just think if there were businesses like business owners or entrepreneurial people who opened a gym for that reason and employed climbers, I think something about it I think might be different. But
I think it would be really different because like you said, every climbing wall has been opened by climbers, and they've all got the idea. I think every single one has had the idea of, I'm going to open a climbing wall for climbers, and it'll be the best climbing wall for my mates and for me, and it'll be the climbers' climbing gym. But every wall lives and dies by its birthday parties. They all live and die by their group sessions. Memberships don't make a climbing wall money. No. So the idea that you can totally finance a climbing wall on just climbers is fairyland.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if a businessman came into it and thought, I'm going to open a climbing gym, what makes money? Groups. The climbing wall scene would be very, very, very different.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have as many crazy shapes of hold, because birthday party kids don't care what the shape of hold is.
No.
They just care about getting high up the wall and swinging about.
Yeah. I think it was. I mean, for me, I hadn't not really thought about what the climbing would be like.
Yeah.
But the experience you have when you come in, I think, would be different.
Yeah.
And it's there's always, and I haven't been to loads. I've only been to probably half a dozen different climbing centres in the UK, and they always strike me as they're the same. Here is different. In that, I always remember, one of the things I always remember about here was how good the cafe was.
Yeah.
And it's because they had a chef.
Yeah.
They didn't have a climber who was cooking. Do you know what I mean?
It wasn't a climber just throwing a toasty in the machine.
And no disrespect to places that's what it is, but it's one of the things that I consistently hear about this place. Yeah, is the cafe's great. Yeah,
they've just changed the name, the Flavour Bomb Kitchen. It's just awesome. And I used to work here. I was 7 years working here. And you route set all morning. You do a 5-hour route setting shift, and then you go up and you used to get amazing dishes. And you're just like, where am I?
I know.
What? I'm not in a climbing wall right now.
but counter to that, if you look at TCA, both TCA centres in Glasgow, I haven't been to any of the ones in Bristol. When you come in, you're in the cafe.
Yeah.
And that's really, for the social aspect of climbing, that's superb.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, it's one of the things I didn't like about here. When the group nights that the group I joined had in here, they were never as social.
Yeah.
So because people would come in and they didn't know where to go, they didn't know where to meet, and it's a harder thing to manage the group social activity. Yeah. Whereas other climbing centres, they just seem to have.
They've got an area to congregate when you first come in the door. Yeah.
And I never get the feeling, and I guess it'd be hard in here because you were taking a church and trying to convert it, but I never get the feeling anyone's thought about that.
Yeah.
They've thought about where can we put wall.
Yeah,
how can we make the wall
business
cool?
is wall space. We need to get as much wall space as possible.
And I totally agree with that. You know, you want people to be on the wall, but in this day and age, so many people want to sit and have a natter and have a coffee and have a chat, and particularly, as you say, if they've got like parties or whatever, having somewhere for parents to be and all that, it becomes, and quite often at a lot of the climbing centres I've been at, when it can be relatively quiet on the wall, but you can't get a coffee. Yeah, and it must be a really difficult balance to strike.
I suppose it really is. Like, I think if we remove the cafe element, because I think you're completely right with the cafe stuff. Like, you know, a lot of people come into a climbing centre just purely for the social side. They might not even climb that day; they just hang out in the cafe. And to have that as the kind of meeting place when you first come in the door would be ideal. You know, having to walk through a climbing centre to find the cafe is not ideal. But like, I think if we've got a glimpse into a businessman's climbing wall, clip and climb.
Where is that?
So clip and climbs, there's lots of them across the UK. They've got one at Ratho, and it's auto belays, massive colourful plastic walls, no holds or any stuff like that. Big neon lights and everything. There's pillars that come out the ground that you got to like jump between the pillars and go up the spiral. There's a big slide and all this stuff, and it's like for the business idea of what climbing could be, like just getting groups in through the door, getting money in. Clip and climb is the perfect example of that. Yeah. It's so far removed from climbing as we know it. Yeah.
But good or bad for climbers?
I've never known a climber to go to clip and climb. Never.
Because I think this, what I think of as climbing. Yeah. I'm imagining you'll tell people we're in Glasgow Climbing Centre, but this place and TCA, that's climbing to me. Yeah. And I know, when I first got involved in people, I knew climbers, and I would talk about coming here and they'd kind of look down their nose at it and think, that's not climbing. Yeah. Because to them, unless you're up a mountain.
Yeah, unless it's actually on rock.
Yeah, you're not climbing. So I guess what we're talking about here is some kind of almost elitism within this.
There is so many different levels of elitism in mountaineering and climbing.
Yeah, and I've never. Well, even the fact that when you say mountaineering, my worst nightmare is being on a wall. Yeah. Up a mountain. I mean my palms are sweating just thinking about it because I'm so scared of heights. Yeah. And I guess the thing about it is I know people who, going to the likes of TCA is like it's the last resort if the weather's shit and they can't go anywhere in the road. And they consider even the fact that it's called a gym.
Loads of people. Exactly.
Because that's where they go and work out for their climbing. Where for me,
that is the climbing.
That's the only reason I've been out at all is because of lockdown. It's the only reason I climbed outside.
Oh, you actually got out?
Yeah, I went out this year. I had been once a couple of years ago with a crowd up to Glenlednock. Yeah. And hated every second of it. And a combination of things we talked about. So my weight means that if I come off from that, if I jump from that onto this, I would hurt myself.
Just for everyone listening on a podcast, he's pointing at a hold 2 feet off the floor.
That's not even 2 feet. But see this, it's a very almost like a children's play park type of sponge. Yeah. That would be enough for me to hurt my ankles and maybe even damage them. Yeah. So coming up from 2 or 3 feet onto a mat, which to me,
really thin mat on uneven ground.
And at Glenlednock, it was like I was with a load of good climbers So they're putting the mat down, and I couldn't reliably stand on the mat without thinking I was going to hurt myself. So I hated every minute of it. But this year, once the lockdown eased and we were allowed out, we went to Cunningar Loop.
Yeah.
We went to Wolfcraig, which coincidentally, this wasn't actually the plan, but my daughter lives a couple of miles from there, so I managed to go and see her as well. And the first time we went was Wolfcraig, and even then I found I was hurting myself coming down from. And the problem I've got, because I'm scared of heights, and I'm not a great climber, once that gets in my head that this is going to hurt if I come off, you just don't climb as well.
Motivation to get high again would be
but you physically don't climb as well.
Yeah.
When you think you might not reach that hold,
reach the hold. You're too tense. You can't move properly, and then you're more likely to fall off.
Yeah, definitely. So I went on a quest to find the thickest, biggest bouldering mat in history, and so I got one. I don't know if it's the thickest, but it's 5.5 inches, which is about an inch and a half more than a normal one. And went back out, and it definitely made a difference. And so we went Wolfcraig 2 or 3 times, discovered Windy Hill, which
I love Windy Hill.
I mean, one of the guys I was with is a really, really good climber, and for him, the only way he could enjoy it was just not following any of the routes, just
playing.
What does he call it? It's a game we used to play in the climbing where you remove holds.
Eliminate.
So it's the only way he could kind of enjoy it, other than the social aspect of it, but I loved it.
I think it's really good. Like, I think it's one of those crags that nobody has climbed on in 10, 15 years, but because of lockdown and the travel restrictions and everything, everyone's had to scrape the bottom of the barrel and find all these little places, and I'm amazed at it. Like, there's loads to do if you're a climber and you want to climb routes. There's loads of little routes there, and it's small, but it's great because there's loads of holds. If you treat it as almost like a system board, like a Beastmaker board, there's loads of holds, and you can just go and play. I think it's a really good venue for that.
And what was good for me, as was Wolfcraig, is there's stuff there that's not even routes.
Yeah,
it's kind of lower than F2 that I could play on and build up my confidence. And you can top out at Wolfcraig and walk back down.
Yeah.
Which I'm the only time I ever topped out at Glenledner. Once I topped it, I felt like someone's going to have to get helicopter rescue to get me off this rock, and I was like 6 foot up. I wasn't high, so I like that, and I mean, it's one of the things I do at the prop store constantly is just force myself to do top outs, because we had a trip planned to Font this year,
right? And
I was building up to that because, of course, everyone kept telling me you realise that everyone
to go to Font.
But you realise like every climb's a top out, I was like, that kind of put me off. So no, as I said, so I went to Wolfcraig, Windy Hill. I think that was only 3. Oh, went once to Glenlednock again, and I would say it's never going to be that over indoor climbing. Yeah. But I mean, I would definitely go. A friend got married last week, and her and her partner went and took photographs at Windy Hill climbing in their wedding outfit.
Oh, nice.
And it's super. I mean, really good. Some drone shots of them on the lone boulder and all that.
That's a beautiful field as well to have photos in, actually.
It's really nice. Well, it wasn't when we were there in the summer, when it has been unkempt because of lockdown.
A bit overgrown.
It was like hacking through the jungle with machetes to get to it. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely once the good weather comes back, I'll definitely go back, because Font is now
looming.
It's now next September.
Yeah, it's good. That's one thing that kind of intrigued me was, in the build up to this, looking at your Instagram, I saw that you damaged your knee. You got a sore knee, and I don't know. We can maybe get into how that happened, if it was climbing related or whatever. But like bouldering is really, really high impact on your knees, on your ankles, on your hips, on your back, and it always surprised me. It's like, well, if he's hurting his knee, why does he not just go rope climbing? But obviously, you said you don't like heights.
I don't like. Okay, so rope climbing. Loads of people I know that boulder say to me, even if we go to prop store, because they've now got the ropes there, we're going to do some autobiles. And the thing is, the thing I don't think climbers get is that someone can climb and be scared of heights.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of it's pseudo control.
Yeah.
But for me it's control. Like if I'm on a wall with 10 inches or 12 inches of foam padding under me,
yeah,
I'm relatively comfortable that I can come off, land, like drop and roll and be fine. Some places have quite hard mats and I'm less comfortable, and I know that if I come off from the top I'm going to have to be very careful. But I've never found, and don't get me wrong, I haven't done it since I first came here, which is a good 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer. So I might love it, but when you're my size, for those listening in stereo, I'm currently just short of 140 kilos.
Right.
And money, that's about just under 22 stone. That's twice the weight of some of the people I climb with.
Yeah.
So if you're like belaying someone, you're the best belayer. I mean, someone's going to fall off and I'm not going to move. But if someone's belaying me, and here with the top rope, it's fine. You can put a couple of twists in the top. But you can't do that with lead climbing.
No, you can't.
And I used to climb with this person who was, I remember we were talking, she was under 50 kilos, right? That's nearly a third of my weight. And she just kept saying to me, well, it'll be fine. I said, listen,
it would be.
It would be. I'd be fine, because your lifeless body would stop me at the first clip. I really had this vision that she had no concept of what it would be like if I dropped off the wall.
Yeah. And
how quickly she would fly towards the first clip. And so all that's going on in my head, and that takes the enjoyment away.
Yeah.
So and even if someone's belaying me, or as we were talking about there, I have this inherent mistrust of anything, and so auto belays are fantastic. I've done auto belay. I'm going to get back to doing auto belay at the prop store for endurance work. But part of me is thinking, what if?
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of me is thinking, and I know there have been cases in the last couple of years. There's been a few cases where someone's injured themselves, but because they haven't clipped in.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd be that stupid. I suppose it happens.
Yeah.
But so I found when I found the downstairs here, the bouldering, I thought I quite enjoy this, but it was quite limiting.
Yeah.
And when I found TCAF, I honestly felt like I was home.
Nice.
But I do get injured, and my approach to injury is always the same, and probably counter to what people would say is, and I've done this with everything I've ever done, horse riding, running. Yeah. When I get injured, I just modify. I very rarely stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm quite experienced at listening to it, so my knee's dodgy just now. There'll be like if the foothold is any higher than about 1.5 feet off the ground, I'll just not do it, because I know I'll put my foot on it and my knee will say, if you put your weight on that, it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt, yeah.
So I don't put my weight on it.
So you choose different routes that don't...
I just choose different routes, or I climb differently. I don't climb anything that I think I might come off.
Yeah. Which is what happened on Sunday.
Which is what happened on Sunday, yeah. Well, on Sunday, what happened was there was this route, and it's massive holds. It's really easy. I think an F5 or something. And I looked at it and I thought, I could do that. And that last move, everyone was saying that last move's quite big. And I thought, yeah, but I think I... So I went up and I tried it. I thought, I think I could do that. Because getting up to it was easy.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, I'm going to do it. And it was towards the end of the session, which is always a bad idea for me. So I just went up and I made the mistake of trying again to see how close I could get to that. Yeah. And literally, I could have held the top. I feel like I could have held the top hold with my tooth. I was so close. So I thought, I'll just go for it. And it just that second, and every climber that's listening will know that's where doubt enters your mind.
Yeah.
And I've done loads of things that and it's one of the things I like about climbing, working with your brain. Horse riding's the same. If anyone's ever ridden a horse, they know that if you're nervous, the horse will be nervous. So just how much doubt is in your mind, and what I should have done as soon as I went for it or started to go for it, I should have stopped.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I thought, I'll just
Full
go for it.
commitment.
And of course, I must have tensed up because it was easily within reach. And I just couldn't get my hand over the top. And then by that time, my right hand was saying, I'm letting go too.
Yeah.
So, and I just, and it was only, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was only from the top of a bouldering wall. So it isn't that I've hurt myself. It's just that I needed, like in the however many microseconds I was in the air, I was thinking, right, I need to try and land more on my left foot than my right foot.
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing. And I probably feel my knee felt a wee bit stiffer on Monday than it had on Sunday, but...
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's your right knee that's sore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny, you get that conversation in your head of, right, I'm definitely going to hit the floor.
Yeah.
Better land on my left leg rather than the right.
Yeah, but it's not even that... It's not even that clear, because if I'd landed only on my left leg would have been
Would have gone as well.
It's just trying to do this really... It's like, I don't know if you've ever read any Terry Pratchett.
No, not really.
Terry Pratchett wrote, I think he wrote it, the Discworld novels, and it's funny for folk that are into that sense of humour, but he talks about camels.
Yeah.
And how camels do complex mathematical equations in their head. Just to finish off the joke, the reason they do it is so that they can work out the trajectory of their spit whenever they're spitting at someone. But and it was like that. My brain's trying to work out trajectory, what angle I'm falling at. Am I going left or am I going right? And the reality is probably I'm fooling myself and I'm not even remotely in control.
In control of that.
I'm going to land
where you land.
And I'd probably bet with 3 pints in me. Yeah. So when I'm injured, I tend to just modify. I got tennis elbow last year.
Yeah.
No idea how, because everything I've read says it's not a climbing injury. Like you don't get it climbing, but it affects you climbing.
Golfers we get.
Yeah. And it was definitely tennis, but I reckon I had it for a good 3 months. I had that strap on, and all I did was I just modified it. I went back to climbing purples, the easy routes, and because I'd rather be climbing and working out than sitting doing nothing.
Yeah.
As was indicated this year when I sat and did nothing, and Jesus, just the weight piled on.
Yeah. How have you found this year?
I haven't found this year. I mean, terrible for a lot of the reasons.
Yeah.
I live on my own. Have done, and for most of the lockdown I was on my own. But I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not. I'm okay with my own company, and I kind of try my best to complete Netflix.
How close did you get? Because I got pretty close.
I got pretty close. I'm just waiting to see that end credits of Netflix. I've now completed Netflix. But no, I found it okay. But I was because I was in training for Font.
Yeah.
On March 15th, which was the last time I climbed before lockdown, I was at 4, sometimes 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And then it just
stopped.
And then nothing. Yeah. And that's all I was doing. I wasn't doing any other exercise.
Yeah.
The odd cycle. And it just stopped. And I just found... I mean, I knew I liked climbing. I was probably bored some people to tears talking about it. But I just didn't appreciate how much I would miss.
Yeah.
Even just being at the climbing centre.
Yeah.
Not the climbing
just for the social side.
Just
and
for the social side.
Yeah.
And see when August 31st, it's not like these dates are ingrained in my mind. When August 31st, when I walked into TCA in that morning, it just felt like such a relief.
Yeah. I think a lot of people had that kind of realisation of just like how much it actually means. Yeah. Like, would you be able to put into words what it actually means to you? Because I think everybody's different. Everybody's got their own reasons for climbing. It affects everybody in different ways. They appreciate it different ways. So, like, if I was to ask what climbing means to you,
it's unfortunately quite what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I want to use, but it begins with W and ends with Anki, and I probably shouldn't say it. It's quite twee. What it means, because what it means to me is the reason I love bouldering.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying rope climbing isn't the same, but I know that bouldering is definitely this. What I love about bouldering is it's problem solving.
Yeah.
It's not about the physical thing. It's not about can you get up that wall. It's about, I tried that move and it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's clearly the right move. So what do I need to do with my legs, my feet, my body, my weight, my tension, or what different move do I need to make? So for me, it's all about the problem solving. So it's a way that I can, one, challenge us, because you're never competing with other people. Well, no. I'm never competing with other people. I'm sure other people do. But
any climber that says there's no competitiveness in it is lying.
Yeah,
either with yourself or with other.
Well, for me,
mates.
it's 100% the me competing with myself.
Yeah.
How well did I do? Like the oranges get reset. How many of them can I do?
Aye.
It's all about that, because last time I did this many, this time, and it's like that competing against yourself, which is a bit like golf as well. You're only ever really playing the course or yourself, and so for me that it was far more the mental exercise, if you like, than the physical exercise. It just so happens it's also very physical, and you're getting a good workout. And I always found, I've dragged people along to the climbing, kicking and screaming to try it, and they've said it was far better than any workout they'd ever done at the gym.
Yeah.
Because it's full.
It's full body.
It's full body, but you don't realise how much you're working.
Yeah.
They couldn't go to the gym and work for 2 hours.
No.
So for me, it was just that mental stimulus as well as the physical exercise.
Yeah.
And I've got the added challenge of I've been climbing now regularly for about 5 years. And I think I've got quite a good eye for a route.
Yeah.
I think I can look at a route and know what the setters are thinking, or know how it should be done, and I know that that's the right hip in there. But then gravity in my body can drive against the setters. So most of the time, my challenge is finding a different beater.
Yeah.
Because the right beater, inverted commas, isn't
the setter's imagination.
The setter's imagination, because a lot of the setters are young, fit. Well, I say a lot. All of the setters.
So annoying.
Well, no.
I'm a route setter. I can take it.
But the thing is, you're setting for climbing. And the thing is, you're not thinking, okay, let's set a route that someone who's 18 and 62 kilos can do, but so can someone who's nearly 60 and 100. You don't, and I wouldn't expect them to. So for me, that challenge of how can I do it is what makes me come back. I'll have a good session. I had a good session on Sunday, and for me a good session is I met people I enjoyed, whose company I enjoyed. We had a good laugh, good banter, good slag each other rotten. We had some nice coffee. I worked hard. I'm physically tired. Yeah. Hopefully not sore, but that I've been mentally challenged. Yeah. And that for me, I don't think I've ever done anything that's all of those.
It is the full package, isn't it?
It's the full package. Because I like running. I haven't been doing much of it lately, but that's only like almost like getting tired while you meditate. For me, it's a kind of Zen thing. But climbing, for me, it's that physical, mental. I don't think of it in terms of a lot of even more than normal being talked about this year in terms of mental health. Yeah, I don't think about it in terms, because I've never really. I'm sure it is for me. Yeah, but I've never really thought I need to go climbing because I'm going nuts, or I'm depressed, or I've got any mental health issues. Yeah. I have been thinking I'm really missing it. And I was very glad to get back to it, and I'm still concerned that they might shut anytime soon. Yeah. So
fingers crossed that's not the case. Yeah, I think like the mental health aspect, I think a lot of people have noticed how much they do need, like just exercise in general, not just climbing, obviously, but I think people have really missed it for that. And I noticed it slightly come the end of lockdown because we as a governing body were unable to run anything. We had to figure out loads of stuff to be able to fill the time and do work and everything. And man, I found myself doing some strange, really odd things around the flat, just trying to keep myself entertained. It was like, man, I need to go climbing. I need to expel some energy here.
You're clearly not committed enough to Netflix.
I did my best.
No, but I think, as I say, the meetup, for anyone that doesn't know, meetup.com is... I didn't really... Have you had a meetup?
Yeah.
Do you know how it started?
I don't know how it started, no.
How it started is fascinating. I didn't realise this. It was created after 9/11.
Oh, really?
In New York to get people who were disconnected from people
right,
together, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
So what it was for me was I broke up from someone I'd been with for a long time, and I realised I didn't really have any friends.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a social life, so I thought, and I heard I heard a meetup, and for me it was, how can I find like-minded people to go and just join them in doing something? And that's how I kind of came across bouldering. And what I found in that group is the bouldering group we've got has everything from fantastic climbers who just want to introduce other people to the sport, to people who just didn't really have a circle of friends. But there's loads of people there that it is almost a mental health thing, that I'm not getting out enough, or I'm not seeing enough people, and I need that human contact. And okay, there's climbing as well. But so, and I imagine there are a lot of people in lockdown that it has been a mental health issue. The fact that they can't get out, they can't interact with people, and you can only do so much in a Zoom pub quiz.
Oh God, yeah.
But no, for me, I think if anyone said to me, should I take up climbing, I think I would struggle to find anyone who wouldn't benefit from it.
Yeah.
Because either they would benefit from it physically, they would benefit it from that. Because I tried to get my daughter into it, and for me, I really didn't care if she became a climber.
Yeah.
I cared that she developed this. For me, what the mark of a good climber isn't what grade they can climb. It's how determined they are to climb it.
Yeah.
So one of the best things I ever got from my daughter learning to climb was, and she did the NIBAS at TCA, and I think they do NICAS here.
Yeah.
Was this thing they do there, which was, if you try and climb something and you don't manage it, you try another 4 times.
Yeah.
And you don't give up.
Don't give up.
You have, well, and they didn't have the same kind of crazy attitude I have, which is never give up. They had, you can't say you can't climb it until you've tried it 5 times.
Yeah.
And I'd really, really try and adopt that. I'm slightly better now that I've got a notion of whether the move I'm making is physically impossible for me, or the move is physically impossible for me.
Yeah.
But I'll throw myself at a wall repeatedly to try and get up something.
Yeah.
It was almost the rules changed for climbing a couple of years ago, for bouldering, where it used to be as long as your hands got into contact with the start holds when your feet were off the ground, that counted as a start. Don't know if you're aware of this.
Yeah.
But it changed to you had to be on the wall and in control before you moved. Right.
So you could just hands on the start and then jump off the floor at the first move.
Well, no, it used to be, if you imagine fairly dynamic starts, so it used to be that as long as, and they changed it in World Championships as well, so someone could run at the holds, jump off the ground,
touch everything,
and then use momentum.
Yeah.
But now they can't do that.
No.
And it really surprised me how often that's what I did.
Yeah.
When it was a fairly dynamic or a fairly, because my centre of gravity is so far from the wall compared to everyone else, anything that's balancy at all I can't start.
Right.
So I used to have to just run at it and touch everything and then go. So I just have this attitude that I will throw myself at things.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that resilience, I forgot what I was talking about, that's what I wanted from my daughter. I wanted her to have that problem solving and
the determination to not let failure.
Yeah. And I think that's something you get from climbing. If you look at some of the kids that go through some of the courses that have been climbing, for 5 years and they're only 10, their determination to get up things is just...
It's unreal.
It's fantastic. Now, and I think... I don't look at them and think they could be at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I think when they are adults and they're in the workplace or whatever they're doing, that determination is going to translate.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's a kind of missed thing that people get from climbing.
Yeah. I think like young kids are brilliant because they just don't realise that there's things that are too hard for them. Like, they'll just try it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they can't do it, they're like, oh, why didn't I do that? That person can do that. Surely I can. And they keep trying and they cannot be told no. Yeah. And it's awesome to see.
I'm reminded of a cartoon because what I do in work is a bit to do with personal development and things like that. And I'm reminded of a cartoon that I saw. I can't remember the name. It's a comic strip cartoon. Was it Garfield? Is it Garfield? Might be Garfield. There's a dog in Garfield, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember
the name of the dog now.
Yeah. But anyway, it's Garfield climbs up a tree and it's sitting on the branch and the dog comes up and sits on the branch. The dog whose name we can't remember, but anyone that's listening will be, it's good. And Garfield said, what are you doing up here? Just come up and see it. And Garfield said, dogs can't climb trees. And it said, damn, if I'd known that, I wouldn't have climbed this one. And for me, that whole not looking at it and seeing the problems. Yeah. It's good for climbing, but it affects so many other things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like every part of life has failure in it at some point. Yeah. And if you can take failure and go, right, okay, well, I didn't manage it this way. Let's try something else.
Yeah, and that, for me, that's what I tell, because quite often we have people new to climbing join left when we don't have meet up and running. And it's what I try to get through to people is good climbers, like people who are good at climbing, there's a lot of them that are very, very bad at knowing not everyone's as good as them. Yeah. If that makes sense. I'm trying to put this diplomatically. There's a lot of them that are fantastic at climbing, and when they're giving advice, they don't realise the advice they're giving. They might as well be telling the people to fly.
Yeah, totally. And so I'll just drop your knee down this way. It's like, I can't bend my hips that far, dude.
You've also used the word that's the most commonly used word in beta advice, which is just. Yeah. Just stand up or just do this. And I remember when there's this climber who I climb with, and I remember I was with someone, and it was someone brand new, and we were trying to do something, and he said, this is someone that's the first time they've climbed. He said, just do a left flag up to... And I said, I didn't even know what a flag is. and besides that, he was flagging on this tiny crimp that I was thinking, the person isn't going to be able to hold it. And so a lot of people just have no concept that there's more than one way to do a route. Yeah, yeah. You know, and I much prefer... I know loads of really good climbers that have that. They have that view. They have look at and some of them that will help you by showing you 7 or 8 different ways to do something. That's my favourite kind of advice.
Yeah. That's why I like getting kids to demonstrate stuff because they always figure out the best ways. And like the route setting that I do is for the competitions, and you know when you're route setting a route for an 8-year-old. I need to think about there's 18 different ways to do this move. Yeah. I want them to do it a certain way, so how can I tweak this to force them to do it my way? Yeah. And they still find different ways to do it.
I'm just putting my jacket on because
it's kind of chilly.
I say that just so that people don't think, what the hell's is there a pigeon in the room? I only heard the phrase beta breaking or breaking beta last month. And I thought, that must be so frustrating for the chuffed route setter that's like, I've just set the perfect route. Yeah. and then someone just ignores it.
It's brilliant. Like when you think you've set something perfectly, you're right. I've thought about every alternative here, and I've forced you to go my way. And someone will find a different way to do it. And you're just how?
But it must be. I mean, I can get that with competition because you're setting for a particular level of climber. But general route setting. I mean, don't get me wrong. I moan and I criticise but it must be so hard because I climb with the tallest person I climb with is 6'2", and the shortest person I climb with, I don't know that she's 5 foot. She might be 4'11".
Yeah. And
they're climbing the same routes, and it just must be such a nightmare to try and cater for that.
Yeah, it really is. Like any route setter that is trying to set for that kind of thing, honestly should be thinking of a kid when they're climbing it, because they're the ones that are going to figure out weird, messed up beta for short people. Rather than going, well, if I just make this move a little longer, it forces you to do it my way.
The prop store has a really good thing, and I don't know why they don't do it in the newsroom, because it's the same company, but the prop store has every colour is a certain grade, and then they have red, and red
kind of spans all.
It spans all of them, but it's for short reach. And I thought that's such a good idea.
Brilliant.
And I always say short reach because people say it's for kids, and I say that I climb with someone that's 5 foot. And she's definitely not a kid, and it's such a good idea.
One thing, like I hear a lot of route setters when they're starting out, it's really easy to just set like long dynamic moves that short people hate. And you always hear short people saying, "Oh, well, it's too reachy for me." But short people are better climbers. Tall people reach past stuff; they don't have to try that hard. Short people have to figure out weird and wonderful ways to be able to do moves, and they become better climbers. And I suppose there's definitely an element of that for you. You can't do moves the way the route setter had intended, so you need to figure out some weird, messed up way to
for
be able
me,
to
the
do
two
this.
things that I think I have to bring to the party, which are not necessarily the same for everyone, is I need to focus a lot more on technique. Than because I can't do a pull up, so I can't just
Powering
muscle
through stuff
myself
is not
up.
an option.
It's not an option for me. Don't get me wrong, I rely on it, but I have to so for example, when I say focus on technique, if I'm doing an overhang, you'll never see my arms bent. So I'm always constantly focused on the straight arms, use my shoulders, which for me is technique. And I really have to, like if I'm in an overhang, I really, really have to pull in with my toes because I don't have the core to keep my feet up. So that for me is good technique.
It absolutely is.
And
you should do some coaching courses, dude. Like trying to tell like strong climbers that.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's funny. I was speaking to someone about this the other week. There, it's not. I wouldn't say bitterness, but you see someone who's a really strong person coming that's relatively new to climbing, maybe their first time, and they'll climb so. In TCA, it's purple, yellow, orange, blue. Blue is where I aspire to be at the moment. And someone will come in the first session and they're climbing a blue. And you can see that there's like not one iota of technique involved. And they throw themselves up there and they're kicking the wall, and it's like people in reception are complaining about the noise they're making, and they get up there and they come down and say, nailed it. And
nailed it.
And I remember having a conversation with a climber that's really, really good climber, but when he started, it was a bit like that. And I kept saying to him, you need to start focusing on technique because you'll throw yourself up there and you'll reach a grade that you cannot do without technique. So unless you know how to flag, you just physically won't be able to do it.
Being strong can only get you so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. You will plateau at some point.
And that's the same with height.
Just
being tall can only get you so far. And so one of the technically best climbers I climb with, he's young and fit, and I don't know what height he is, but he's tall. He's shorter than me, but he will do his damnedest to find a static way to climb something, even if it's set dynamically. And I love watching. If I'm watching climbers, I will always gravitate to watching the ones that are all technique. We've got this thing. We don't always stick to it, but we've got this thing. This Rose who I climb with, that when we do warm-ups, the warm-ups are all about footwork practice.
As they should be.
Well, no,
As they should be. That's awesome.
People come in, and people that are climbing, 6Cs, 7As, and they come in and they just throw themselves on and everything. They've not warmed up. They've not, and it's easy for me to say because you get to a certain age that if you don't warm up, you're just asking for injury. But I don't think they realise that warming up is not just about injury. It's about getting your muscles ready to function.
Ready to fire.
Yeah. And when you're working at the grade you're working at, you can't really be practising footwork.
No,
so for me, it's the warm-up's always...
Because your mind, you can't learn properly if you're stressed. No. If you're stressed when you're climbing, if you're trying something hard, you can't think hard enough about your technique to be able to learn anything. Yeah. You need to do it when you're relaxed, and the best point to do that in is in your warm-up. You spend half an hour warming up. If you work on your technique there, those skills become autonomous. And you're never going to do that if you just come in and jump on hard stuff.
No, absolutely not. And the other thing, I read Dave McLeod's book. Dave McLeod's 9 out of 10 climbers make these mistakes.
Yeah.
And there's a paragraph in there, or I don't know if it was a chapter, but a piece of advice that just hit me right between the eyes, and I realised, damn, I need to change what I do. And I'm paraphrasing everything about what he said.
Yeah.
What he said was basically, 3/4 of the time you're spending climbing should be on stuff you can't do.
Yeah.
And I thought, because I was that person who a climbing session to me would be go climb everything I can climb, and feel really good about myself, and try the odd hard thing, but what I realised, and unfortunately I read this at the beginning of 2020, and I found that I would have the odd set, because I was climbing 4, sometimes 5 times a week. One session would be just climb stuff I can climb. It was the fun session.
Yeah.
But every other session I would warm up, and then I would just focus on stuff I can't do, moves I can't make, grades I'm trying to get to. If I was trying something 1 or 2, I would try even get on climbs that were higher grades is a challenge for me sometimes. And what I noticed is within a matter of weeks, my climbing was improving. It was such powerful advice. And you see loads of people who their idea of climbing is, they're only climbing stuff they can climb.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not saying they'll never improve, but the improvement's nowhere near as fast as when you focus on the difficult stuff.
Definitely not. And I think there's a different problem that comes from that as well, and it's one of the big topics right now in rope centres is bad belaying. I don't think the percentage of people that climb has the percentage of bad belayers in that population that climb. I don't think that's changed that percentage, but because there's more climbers, there's obviously more cases of it. And the people that are belaying badly and that might cause an accident, they don't know because their climbers aren't trying hard enough to fall off all the time. If you're never falling off, then you're never testing your belayer. So I think there's definitely bad things that come from never actually pushing yourself. I suppose if if you're quite happy just climbing what you can climb and you don't want to improve, then you're never going to try hard enough.
Yeah, and I've had this conversation with so many people that I climb with. When they get it in their head, they're bothered by the fact they're not climbing as well as other people.
Yeah.
I said, well, first, and this is a rule for life, never compare yourself to other people, but certainly in climbing. And I said, well, do you want to be a better climber? And she said, yeah. In fact, I had a conversation with someone on Sunday. She said, how do I get better? How do I build up strength? And it was almost like that I could give her an app.
Yeah.
And I said, you just need to work on the hard stuff. What do you mean? Well, let's do some overhangs. I hate overhangs because I'm not strong enough. I said, well, yeah, you're only going to build up strength for either going to the gym or working on overhangs.
Yeah.
And it's a fun one. The belaying for me, that's my weak point about rope climbing, is that belay point, because if I'm the person belaying, I trust myself implicitly, but if I'm having to trust, and what you were saying is, it's a bit like, probably a stupid analogy that feel free to cut out if it makes no sense. It's a bit like windscreen wipers.
Right, I'm intrigued to see where you go from this.
Well, you only your windscreen wipers only break in the rain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, while it's not raining, you don't care whether your windscreen wipers are working. And while you're climbing, you don't care that your belayer might be crap. But when you fall...
You want them to be on the ball.
And the unfortunate, there must be loads of people that come and belay and they've never once had to catch someone. And I certainly don't want the first person someone finds out if they can catch someone is when they have to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I imagine, there are people that do practice and do. And in the 9 out of 10 climbers book, Dave McLeod talks about practice and falling for the climber.
Yeah.
You know, but I imagine it's just as useful for the belayer.
In fact, more important for the belayer. Like the climber can be scared about falling off, but that doesn't make a difference. That's not a dangerous thing.
No.
The belayer needs to be well versed, you know. Yeah. And we've been working on a better belaying workshop that was supposed to be started this year, but everything got put back. So hopefully 2021. But the first questions I ask is, do you consider yourself a good belayer? Most people say yes. Good. How often do you catch falls?
I've
never catch a fall. Then how do you know if you're a good belayer or not?
That's right.
Yeah.
I can feed that rope through.
Yeah, I'm slick, especially when they fall off.
Yeah. But it's I just don't. It's my, because when I came here, I got something that I remember. I can't remember any of the details, so please excuse me. But it was basically one of these, a belay device. Is that the right reason?
Yes.
But it was like an auto one.
Right. Okay.
So it meant that if the person falls, it just locked.
Was it like a big kind of block?
It wasn't massive, and I've seen massive ones.
Yeah.
But it basically used some. I can't remember.
Did it have like a moving handle on it?
No, it didn't.
No?
And I've seen ones like that. No, this was just the way the rope went.
Right.
Meant that if the rope pulled, it probably worked the same way as blooming seatbelts. But I remember, and I got it because I was belaying. I was climbing with my oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I don't want to have to be worried about whether she can or can't. You know, and don't get me wrong, she had the technique and we taught the technique and all that, but even stuff like, I can't remember how to belay, but one of their hands should be down.
Yeah.
Even every now and then you see people with a hand coming up and you think,
like standing here like this.
When that hand's up there,
like,
it's
oh my
doing
God.
nothing.
Yeah.
And this belay device took away the impact of that. But I remember speaking to climbers saying, well, that's, you know, and they were dead against it. And I get the point, because if they're relying on the technology, they don't have the technique.
Yeah.
So just that whole thing, and bouldering has the same thing for me, because whilst I have scoured YouTube and watched videos and learned about what to do if I fall on a mat, I've never once been shown.
Yeah.
And we don't do any, and no one's ever explained
Those
spotting
kind of things
to me.
don't really exist. In climbing there's never any courses or anything you can learn about how to land properly.
But spotting, you know, spotting is like, I'm sure there's a point to it.
Like, I'm going to throw this out there. If you're an indoor climber, do not spot. Unless there is a high chance of someone landing on their head from a move, stay out the way, because you're just more likely to get landed on and hurt yourself.
And I get, and I've spoken to people who are spotting. I'm saying, so what? I've never said it to this, but this is what I mean. Yeah. What's the point of you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Because, like, if that person falls, I can almost guarantee you're getting landed on.
Yeah.
And what? And they say, well, you're just directing. I'm thinking, yeah.
But that's what the mats are for.
Yeah, and this is why I like indoor building out visit. I'm never missing the mat in an indoor, you know, where I'm always worried about missing the mat outside. But it's just that I've never once, and I climb with a relatively, I say old, but he's not as old as me, but one of the old guard, and he's obsessed with the fact that he keeps seeing people climbing difficult stuff without spotting. And I'm like, yeah, but what would they be doing anyway?
Yeah.
But again, it's all that kind of stuff that I think with rope climbing, there's a lot of safety stuff that it's inherently more important that people learn and do properly.
Yeah, for sure.
Bouldering,
it's about the climbing. It's about the movement.
No, but I think safety is just important.
Yeah.
And I think the unfortunate thing is the way a lot of climbing centres tackle it is, as long as they watch this video and sign this waiver, we're covered. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And nothing against climbing centres I've been in, but I just see too many examples of people who are clearly just, this is the first time they're, and they walk around a corner under an overhang, and you think, I mean, the number of times I've been on a wall, on an overhang, which is never a reliable proposition for me, and some child has walked underneath me. And I think, I mean, fortunately, I'm of the mood that if something terrible happened, I would feel vindicated that it was not my fault. But if I landed on a child, that child's going to stay landed on. It's. But its parents are just so. If you're a parent out there and you've got kids, keep your eye on. Keeping your eye on the child means you can see them at all time. It doesn't mean that you're roughly aware.
You kind of know where they are in the building.
Yeah, and it's the courses are good because they get taught all that. But you can just turn up with a kid, watch a video, and throw them at the wall. And I think it's just but it annoys me.
I think you're right. There is like a gap in the. Yes, we've done the video thing. We are legally covered, but.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's not how they're thinking.
You could easily throw something in there, a course in there, or just a little practice in there to make people a bit more aware of the dangers.
And some centres do, and I've noticed that at the prop store they do this for the rope stuff. They don't do it for the bouldering. They have like a little book and what's wrong with that picture.
Yeah, kind of like the assessment.
Yeah, and I think when I climbed at Oakwood in Wokingham, and I really like that centre, and they were the same. Have you climbed before? Yeah. How long have you been climbing? And it was, you could answer yes, and I've been climbing 15 years and I'm a professional. Yeah. You'd still had to do the assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even at that...
So that's for rope climbing centres. Every rope climbing centre has to have an assessment of that form, but bouldering centres don't have the same...
And that's and Wokingham's... And I've not by any means been to loads, but Wokingham's the only one that I've ever been to that had that. Yeah. And it was funny because the guy I'm climbing who climbs kind of 8As and all that still had to do it, and he was kind of laughing. I thought, but I'd rather have that. I'd rather have that than nothing. Yeah. And you just see, and where it's less of a problem now where there's restrictions. But see, when before restrictions, when climbing centres were more, I'd be interested to see actually if I was going to say once, but if restrictions ever get lifted, whether climbing centres will limit their numbers, because I think. Speaking of just TCA, which is the one I can speak of, with the numbers which are, I don't know what they are in terms of what their max was before, but if we were to suddenly lift the restrictions and it went back to normal, I don't think anyone would feel safe. Not from a COVID perspective, but I just remember there's been times in there where you felt you were climbing above Sucky Hall Street, and I think it'll be so weird. Yeah. And I just wonder whether climbing centres will have a different attitude to what's a safe maximum.
Possibly. Now, because they've seen what it's like with a quieter centre and how sort of easy it is and safe it is to have lower numbers. But I suppose then, going back to our comments at the start about the business side of it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, be an interesting one. Yeah.
Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask that you haven't asked?
Honestly, I've got a book's worth of questions that I haven't asked. Yeah, I hope you noticed I put the book away. Yeah. I realised that there was no point in asking the questions. I much prefer when the conversation just flows. Yeah. So I mean, this has been kind of better than if I'd gone through those questions. I mean, one question that I think I was kind of interested in asking would be like, what's your ambitions for sort of going forward from now?
Okay.
I know you've got,
So it says on my Instagram 7A. Well, it did say in 2020, but now it says 2021. Yeah. Let me explain that 7A, and also, I need to explain that when I put that and decided on that, I hadn't actually checked what that meant in terms of what routes I'd be climbing in TCA. But 7A is a lot. This is going to sound hugely big-headed, and I apologise because I'm not normally big-headed.
That's quite all right.
I once
People have had to listen to me for the last 6 months. They know what big-headed sounds like.
I once sat and I was speaking to someone about climbing, and we were talking about technique. Two things which I think I have. I think I have technique, and I think I have a good eye for what I should be doing and what. And the big thing I don't have, or I have, that's totally missing, is I'm typically the weight of two people, right? So we sat and just as a thought exercise said, what would you be climbing if you were my weight?
Yeah.
You know, and I genuinely thought I'd be climbing 70s. So that's where the target came from.
Yeah.
It's reliant on two things. One, I definitely need to get stronger. I definitely need to keep working on technique. But a lot of it's reliant on if I was to lose, not even masses of weight.
Yeah.
You know, I could lose 5 stone. I don't know what that is in kilos for listeners in new money.
Would be 40 something kilos.
Yeah.
40 kilos, something like that.
If I could lose that, I'd still be overweight.
Yeah.
You know, if it's 40 kilos, if I was to lose 40, I'd still be 100 kilos.
Yeah.
That's nearly 30 kilos heavier than... So, but I think my climbing would just dramatically improve. So the 2020 plan, which I'm sure loads of... There's that famous quote is make a plan, watch God laugh.
Yeah.
You know, so the plan for this year was weight loss, fitness, running, working on climbing improvement, all building towards font.
Yeah.
And part of I don't think we even talked about why I started the Instagram account. But one of the motives for the Instagram account was a million years ago through my work, I did some personal development course that talked about assertions, positive assertions. Not there's the thing that you tell yourself. I can't remember what they're called, affirmations or something.
Yeah.
Those are one thing, but this is positive assertions are where you tell other people.
Then you can be held to account.
And you're held to account, yeah. And so for me, the loads of people I climb with are sick of hearing it. Yeah. So for me, part of the reason for Instagram was just to, you know, if I put stuff up and people are interested, and it's almost like the more followers I have, the more held to account I'll be, if that makes sense. So it was definitely a drive for me.
Interesting.
And as I said, but then March 23rd came, and this is where I realised the link with climbing, because March 23rd came, and a few of us that are reasonable climbers but aren't strong. So I'm strong, but I'm heavy. So, but we had this game we started playing called Pull Up Club, which was learning to do pull-ups. Not learning, but building up strength to do pull-ups. And I'd done a lot of work on it, and there's many conflicting techniques on how to do your first pull-up. And the one I picked, because I had an experience of it years previously, was not using bands, but using eccentrics or negatives. So we were starting to do that, and when March 23rd came, we said, right, that's it. 2-3 times a week, we're going to have a Zoom call, and we're going to do Pull Up Club. And I hadn't quite appreciated, and I'm not taking responsibility for this, I understand this, but when I couldn't climb, I had no motivation for doing it. And I think what's really interesting is Rose, the person who was so keen to do it, who's such a good climber, the one that I talked about that does the warm-ups and techniques and is nearly 5 foot, she stuck to it. And when our first time at Wolfcraig, she was doing a pull-up, and she'd gone from not even being able to do like a scat shrug to being able to do a pull-up just in lockdown. You know. And I instead, what I did was I lost pretty much all my strength and gained far too much weight. I realised I'm inherently lazy, but I hadn't quite clicked that it's the climbing that keeps me. going.
Yeah.
I've realised you asked me a question and I started answering a different question.
That's really interesting. Because I
oh yeah, so where am I trying to get to?
Yeah.
So for me, I don't have any aspirations. Like I don't want to. There's a winter, the Bouldering League winter. You know, I'd do that, but not because I ever have any aspirations to be winning it.
Yeah.
Because for me, I do the competitions, and it's because I do the competition and I got there, and next year I want to be there. Sorry, I want to be a bit. I want to be a bit better.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and for me, the only reason the 70 isn't really a tangible target. It's that's where I felt if I was even approaching a normal weight, that's what I'd be climbing.
You could be there. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. Like I did wonder whether climbing, you got into climbing for the fitness side, but no, like you climb because you genuinely have always enjoyed it. The Instagram is the fitness side.
Yeah, well, it's the motivation. It's funny. I had this conversation. The guy Mark, who I climb with, is a fantastic climber, best climber I know personally. And he's far more the age group that would be on Instagram, but he's not on Instagram. And we're having this whole conversation, and he has this view, which I'm 100% disagreeing with. Everyone on Instagram showing off,
totally
right? And I'm thinking, yes, part of definitely if I climb something and I'm proud of it, I definitely think I want to show people. So that's definitely showing off. But there is the thing that I'm fairly sure I do have. The main driver for me is that being held for account, because I where I am now, weight wise and fitness wise, no one has got me here other than me. It's the thing I've worked hardest at in my life is getting this far. We used to have this old joke with a big belly. It was when someone says it's the only thing I've got that's paid for, and so I fully know that no one's going to get me back to fit, but for me that positive assertion that where I'm telling, and I'm not just telling half a dozen folk, I'm telling everyone, and it's right there. It's the first line, maybe the second line. And interestingly, it's fun when folk say, well, so what if we get that? What, fat old climber won't fit anymore? And I said, do you know, I think I've seen people on Instagram that call themselves fat, and I think I could be the fittest I've ever been and still be called fat. So, but that's the driver.
So there we go. We've got to get you some more followers now. Yeah. The more peer pressure it is.
The more peer pressure, the better. Yeah.
So everyone go on Instagram. Is at Fat Old Climber.
Fat Old Climber.
Yeah. Go and follow this.
No underscore. It's and when you see, you'll see that the handle fits perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about the climber. Fat old person on a wall wasn't really.
Well, I'm super psyched to see like the rest of this year in 2021. Hopefully, you get your font trip in next year. And man, I can't wait to see you hitting 7A. It's going to happen.
I am confident. I just need to. For me, it's the weight. The weight loss is the thing, but I'll get there.
You'll get there.
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me, buddy. That was awesome.
Great.
I'm glad you noticed I put my book away and didn't ask any questions, because that was a really honest and natural chat. That was really good.
Good.
So yeah, hopefully I'll keep up with you and keep following the Instagram and see how you get on. We might catch up with you sometime in the future.
Definitely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Live from the top of a 7A.
Live from the top of the 7A. Deal. I'll hold you to that.
Cool.
Awesome. What an amazing chat with Gordon. Such a nice guy. I think you'll agree with me that he's such a nice guy. Really nice perspective on what climbing is, what climbing offers him, and what it can offer everybody else here. Really glad I got to sit down with him, actually, and big thank you, Gordon, for agreeing to sit down with me for an hour. Although Gordon is just a boulder, I'm sure that he'd agree with me in saying that when you do get out there and you do go climbing, do your buddy checks. Thank you very much.